the schedule or waiting to see what date's available, but I'm going to Marion, Illinois. One day for a South 95 or FM 95 radio. Wants me to come hang out and talk about addiction and all that good stuff. That's a goddamn let me do it. I mean, he's kicking me in the butt and walking.
Oh, that's what there's light.
Hi, Lisa, uniquely unforgettable coach.
This is Scott. I'm the I Get It coach. How's everybody doing? How are you doing?
Awesome. Guess what I started this week?
What's that?
Started a weight program, health program, whatever you want to call it.
Nice. How's it going?
Good. So far, I've lost 6 pounds.
Well, that's what's up. Congratulations.
So yesterday was a struggle. I was hungry yesterday, but I think it was because I donate plasma.
That makes you hungry.
And I think usually I was hungry. But today, it's taking me a lot to even try to get my little meals. It's like 6 little meals.
Yeah, when I was doing, trying to eat every couple hours is hard too, especially when you're working and you're busy. But congratulations, that's awesome.
Yeah, 40 pounds I need to lose. That's my goal.
There you go. I've learned not to get into arguments or discussions with women about their weight, because we never win. So I just voice my opinion and just let it be. So
Thank you. Well, what's up with you this week? What did you do?
work. And work and work and work. Got up on stage, drove to Kansas City. Did a little bit of service work, drove back, and then got my hair cut, and on Amazon.
Rock on.
Yeah, it's just that.
So what's the name of the book?
You know, it was supposed to be I Get It, and we were talking this morning, and it's still going to have I Get It in it, but it's went from chasing dope to pushing hope, and it's going to have I Get It on the bottom.
Okay.
I sent him a picture with some words on it because I put a post up a while back when I was in St. Joe, and a lot of people said that they loved that. So I think that's what we're going to do, and I talked to him for like 45 minutes this morning, and he said, well, I would like to, because he did graphic designs for like 30 years, and he's doing this. He loves what I'm doing and what my cause is, so he's helping me out. And so this morning we talked, and he said, I need this, and this, and I need you to do this, and this. So tonight I'm going to do it, and then over the weekend, him and his wife are going to do some things. He's going to touch it up and get it back to me to see what I think about it, and if I like it, it's just going to go straight on Amazon and
Is it Kindle?
Kindle, yeah.
All right.
So I'm pretty excited about that, because everything that I do with the shirts and the book and the necklaces and all that is going to help people get into sober living. It's going to help people in sex trafficking and human trafficking and the homeless. It's just anybody struggling,
Right.
because there's so much of it.
There is.
So there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up, and I'm kind of branching out on my shirts too. Instead of they're gonna be some that say they're still gonna be just for today I get it, but there's also gonna be shirts that just say I get it on it. And what's really cool is there's people been ordering them and putting their clean dates on the back.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
That is, because it's we can't be quiet anymore. You know, we can't worry about what people are going to say if we're in recovery.
Very
you know,
true.
it because they just had a study out that since March, and I'd mentioned this before. I'd be curious to see what the numbers are. Since March, the overdose rate has went up 30%. And I didn't get to see the numbers on suicide, but I can guarantee it's up that high, if not more. And I'm willing to bet, if I was a betting man, and I'm not, but
But he's betting, y'all.
I'd be willing to bet that the suicide and the overdose rate go hand in hand. I bet there's some that are they want to commit to suicide and are using drugs to do it because they just don't want to live anymore, which is sad because everybody's got a good life to live.
Yeah.
So a lot of cool stuff. It,
Yeah. I think maybe, do you have anybody coming on next week?
not next week, but on the way up here, I made a phone call to a friend of mine that I'm pretty excited. I asked her if she would come on, and she was one of those that was with me from the get-go. I mean, from day one when I started going to meetings, she was there, and she was always like open arms and you can do it, Scott. And then if I did anything stupid, she'd give me a kick and kind of push me back. And that girl has went through, she's coming up on, I believe, 6 years or 7 years. I can't remember. And she has been through a lot and it's never picked up.
Very good.
And she makes a big difference in she helps a lot of people. So I talked to her and she would love to. She's going on vacation the 2nd through the 3rd of September. And she said anytime after that, let her know when she'd drive down, she'd call, whatever. So I'm pretty
Very
excited
cool.
about that. So.
Yeah. I think like next week, if it's cool, maybe we should talk about domestic violence,
Absolutely.
abuse stuff next week.
Because that's a big thing that can, domestic violence and addiction go hand in hand a lot of times. I'm not saying all the time. But,
Correct, but it can.
Yep.
Something to numb the pain.
Yep. To forget
Something.
about it. And absolutely.
So
So let's do that. Next week it's going to be domestic.
So if y'all have any questions, any comments, any stories you want to share with us, share it this week on the I Get It page or Scott Hartman's page or Lisa Mash's page. I have a page or my own Facebook page that says Lisa Mash. So either way, share your stories. We'll share it here also. We're about to have an awesome chick come on. Sorry, Krista, if I called you a chick. But an awesome lady come on shortly here. She has an organization, and she's going to talk to us about her nonprofit organization for addiction and what her cause is. So we're going to be waiting for her to come online here in just a second.
I'm excited to hear it because I read what you sent me, and she's been through it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I can't wait to hear her story again, so I can, because my memory is just shot a lot of times. So,
Okay, she says she's joining.
so I'm excited.
Krista Hartman.
Yes.
There she is. And
Hey, Krista, can you hear us? Maybe.
Can you?
I'm hooked. Hold on.
Is that enough?
Hang on a second.
Do I need to bring it back so we can wrap it around?
yeah, bring it back so I can wrap it around.
Yeah. Yeah, we got it.
There you go.
Hey, Krista, can you hear me now? Hello,
Her audio
Krista.
might not be on.
I see her. She's typing. Sorry, technical difficulties.
Working on
She looks really familiar.
it. Okay, call connected.
Can you hear me now?
And looks like she might have just lost.
Yeah, she looks frozen.
She does.
She goes, I'm on, but I am frozen. Yes, you are. Can you log back out and log back in? We're frozen
I'll
too.
go ahead and disconnect for her.
But we're
Log
frozen
back
too.
in.
Hey Scott, we're frozen too.
I don't know why. Let's see here.
There we are. We're not frozen up there. We're just frozen right there.
Yeah.
Okay. She's kicking her kids off the internet.
Yeah, that'll help.
There she is.
There she
going.
is.
Alrighty. Now,
Can you hear us, Krista?
hold on. Can she hear you?
Can you hear me, Krista? No, she can't.
Headphones in? What's your last name?
Hartman, Harmon. Oh, she can hear now. Hey, Krista.
Hello.
There we go.
Just a little bit of technical difficulties here. So, Krista, thank you for coming on Voice of a Hope. How's your day?
Thank you for
been?
having me.
Absolutely.
Long.
No, it still has us frozen.
So, Krista,
It's okay.
I'm not going to ask a whole bunch of questions right this second. So, I really just want you to tell everybody who you are, how you got here, your organization, and just kind of share your story.
Okay.
Midmo Addiction Awareness Group.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and start.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. My name is Krista. I'll start at the beginning. 6 years ago, I found out my daughter had a heroin addiction, and it rocked my world and changed everything that I knew to be real to be not so real anymore. And she just had a baby, so that was another piece of the puzzle that we had to figure out, and what we were going to do, and how, and it wasn't so much what we were going to do, it's what I was going to do to deal with this. It got bad. the state came in and took custody of my grandson, and I became a foster grandparent. So at 18 months old, he was living with me, and I was, a foster, but I was grandma at the same time. She did everything she was supposed to do, set by the state, and got custody back. And shortly after that, I sought legal advice, and I went for legal guardianship. So that went through. So now I am legal guardian of my grandson. For my daughter, it's a roller coaster. She went to rehab. She came back. She overdosed. She went to rehab. She came back. She went to jail. So it was over and over, long, just you name it, we've been through it. The organization came about 6 months after finding out her addiction. I didn't know, there was no resources. There's nowhere for parents to go. There's nowhere for people to turn for help, information, or anything. So a group of myself and a group of a few other parents got together going through the same thing with their kids, and we just decided, hey, let's do a walk. Let's have an awareness walk. And that walk turned out to be a very successful event, and we've been doing it for 6 years now. In Sullivan, we do go to other communities, and in April of 2014, Mid-Missouri Addiction Awareness was born, and we filed the nonprofit paperwork, and we just do whatever we can to raise awareness, increase education, and be there for people. I want people to know that they have, parents especially, that they have nothing to be ashamed or embarrassed about, and they can talk about it, and they're not alone. And that's my biggest thing. We awareness, increasing education, and stopping the stigma, because the stigma that surrounds substance use is more of a hindrance for people to get help than nothing. Because when you use drugs, you're already considered, a piece of trash, but you're not. You are someone, and someone cares. And MAG, we do care, and we do want to help, and we do want to be there for people. So that's how MAG got started. We started with the walks. Each year we have an awareness fair. It's in September, which is Recovery Month. So we bring in resources and have speakers. We set up visuals. I have an 8-foot pill bottle that we set up. Last year we remodeled the camper and turned it into a virtual bedroom, so people can walk through and we can show them how drugs are hidden, signs that are just simple to you and I, a bottle of water sitting around. But a lot of bottles of water could be a sign of drug use. I'm not saying all the time, but it could be. Where the drugs are hidden in some of the craziest hiding places, but they are hidden. And we just want people to know. We don't want people, if you're going through this, we don't want you to get slapped upside the head like most of us are. So that's the organization. That's a little bit about me. I am happy to say my daughter is almost 3 years in recovery now, and she's doing wonderful, and she speaks. She tells her story. She actually went back to prison where she was and spoke to the ladies there, and she's just doing phenomenal. She still has rough days, and she still struggles, but she's fighting every day, and that's all that matters. So, that's...
I think we froze up.
Did she freeze up again?
Let's see here. Like she freezed up.
That's the
Oh,
Oh, wait a minute.
There she is.
okay, we got you back now.
We're green.
You froze up a little
Sorry.
bit there.
I guess my internet's being goofy tonight.
It's all good. Hey, I'm going to talk to you a little bit as a mom to mom.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember me reaching out to you way back when my own daughter was using.
I do.
So,
I do.
how old was your daughter when she started using, or when you found out she was
16.
using?
She started using at 16. I found out at 22.
So she had been using 6 years
6 years, yes.
before you knew.
And it started with just pain pills. You know, she would get pain pills from people and crunch them up and snort them. It didn't turn to heroin until after she got out of high school.
So when you found out when she was 22, how did you handle it? What was going on in your head?
I thought I was a complete failure as a parent. I was terrified. And the word heroin never even entered my mind. I mean, I knew she was doing something because I had a feeling. But when I found out it was heroin, I'm like, where do you get heroin here? You know, that's crazy. I was thinking more like meth or, you know, something like that. But heroin blew my mind. It did. And then I was even more lost because I'm like, oh, what do I don't even know where to even go. You know, what do you do?
Right. Right. So, as a mom, can you explain, like, your feelings? Like I knew when my daughter was using, I had high anxiety. Always worried if I was going to get that phone call or door at the knock. Did you go through that?
Yes, every night. Every night. If I didn't know where she was or if I was sending her text messages and she didn't answer, the worst image was in my mind. You know, she was in her car dead, or, you know, laying in a ditch somewhere dead, or in the city somewhere on the street dead. You know, whatever your worst fear is, you think of that constantly. And until you get that message saying, I'm all right, you know, quit blowing up my phone, you know, that fear doesn't go away. I would rather her answer me and be mad at me than ignore me.
Right. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. And she's been clean 3 years, right?
Right at almost 3 years. In October, it'll be 3 years.
And how's your anxiety now?
Mine?
Yes.
It's good. I have my days. You know, posts on Facebook really kind of scare me at times because I'm like, where are you thinking? Where are you going? What are you doing? But our relationship now is very open and honest. And if I think there's something wrong, if my gut is telling me there's something wrong, I will call her out on it. And, you know, we respect each other in that way because I don't want to go backwards. And yes, I make her mad and I anger her every day, you know, if I look at her wrong, because she does have scars and she does have marks. So if she thinks I'm looking at her arms or where, you know, a vein is gone, she gets very self-conscious. But it's not me looking at them. It's just, you know, it's habit, because that's how I could tell when she was using, you know, and it's a habit I need to break because I know she's not using right now. And that's a hard habit to break for me because that was my telltale sign when she was using. So it's a learning process for me too.
So, I mean, in the beginning when she first became clean, I mean, you had doubts, did you? That she was actually clean
Yes.
and she wasn't out using?
Yes, because, you know, we went through the rehab and we went through the 120-day shock, and it's like, Mom, I'm in recovery, I'm good. And then she would relapse, and it would be like, relapse is part of recovery. and it is. But how many times is a relapse acceptable in your recovery? So, I mean, all the counselors and everything will tell you relapse is part of recovery, but I'm like, okay, but how many times is it acceptable? Because 2 times is too much for me. You know, so it's a process. It's all a process, and I don't know their side of the process. I got to learn my own process as being a mom and dealing with it.
Correct. And there is a process, but I can remember going to some of those meetings, and that was one of my first things that I used to tell Scott that's sitting here. I did not like the counselors saying that when you're in recovery, you're going to relapse. Because that to me was
I don't like it either, because it's like giving them permission.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And I don't like that. I don't like it. I understand when you're in recovery and you're going to stumble and you're going to fall. But you got to be able to pick yourself up and say, you know what? I screwed up. I got to start over. Let's get this going again. I know the right way to go. I know how to be in recovery. Let's stay in recovery. Don't say, oh, well, I relapsed and, it's just a part of the process.
Right. So, it's like my daughter, she did good. She actually did good for the first time she went in. She did good almost to her 30 days. And she came home and she said, Mom, because she was doing outpatient at this time. She said, Mom, they said that all addicts relapse. And I was like, well, you don't have to. You're stronger than that. But that was her code that she went out that night and used, because the counselors told her all addicts relapse. And so I totally disagree that part of the program. They might need to leave that out, because I think the younger kids hear that, young adults hear that, and they're like, okay, it's okay, I go use.
It's a free pass for them, and that shouldn't be part of the process.
Correct.
They need to make them aware that it's possible that it can happen, but don't put it out there where it's normal that you relapse.
Correct.
Because we don't want that to be normal. We want to change that cycle and say it's normal that when you think you're going to relapse, reach out and talk to somebody and divert your actions to something else instead of using. Go run a mile. Go lift weights. Go call someone. Anything like that. Divert your thought process away from using to something else positive.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Krista, Scott Hartman, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. For one,
Good.
thanks for coming on and sharing. What I
You're
think
welcome.
what I think you're doing is amazing. And more
Thank you.
parents need to do that. Second, tell your daughter I said congratulations.
I will.
Because I just celebrated 44 months clean after being in it for over 30 years. So to hear somebody stay clean a day, I get excited, but 3 years, that's huge.
Yes.
Now, I'm surprised that I have not heard of your organization down there. But when is the next walk? Are you guys going to have it in September because of COVID, or?
The awareness day is in September. It's September 12th in Sullivan, and it's at the Sunny Jim Bottomley Park. It's right across the road from the swimming pool. That's the awareness day fair. We're having several walks coming up. We've got one this coming Saturday in Salem. We've got one in St. Clair in September, which is September 26th. Then in October, we're going to Bell, and in Owensville, and in Cuba.
That's what's up. And once we get done here, I'm going to send you a friend request because I would like to share some of that on my page.
Okay.
And I have a lot of parents reach out to me when their kids are using. And I can't understand what they're going through because I haven't had to deal with that.
Right. And, not to interrupt you, but we're actually starting the process of starting a support group for parents and loved ones in Sullivan.
That's what's
because
up.
that is something that I am asked about all the time, and I have to send them to the city because that's the closest there is. So the organization, we talked about it, and we've got on my board, I've got a gentleman who was a leader at Celebrate Recovery, and he's stepped away from that, but he's going to help us get the family support going and the model and everything, so we can have a successful, support family.
Right. I used to go to the one that they had in the city, in South City. And the first time I went, it just gave me a whole new perspective because I heard the parents and grandparents and family members talk about which loved one was an addict. And I'm thinking,
right.
Wow, I did that to my parents. I did that to my sister. And it was just heartbreaking. But it also changed my perspective because as addicts, what we put our parents through or any family member is just awful. But there needs to be an outlet for parents or loved ones that have somebody in addiction.
Only the parents and the grandparents, especially the ones that have kids, because the kids are the silent victims and they don't have any outlet. And everything that my grandson has gone through, he had me to, keep things normal, but he still has feelings because both mommy and dad used. And, he's got a lot, he lived it, his whole life up until I got him in my custody. So as a baby up until the age of 1 to 2.5, he was in the car. He was going to St. Louis. He was watching mom and dad. So, my grandson's lucky, but there's a lot of kids that are still with their parents that see it, watch it, and they have nobody. They have no outlets. And they're the silent victims who are, this isn't the right word, but they're being tortured because they, where does it stop? They see mom and dad doing it. It's their life. So they're going to grow up and be scarred by this trauma. And if they don't learn to deal with it and learn to talk about it, chances are this will continue. So where does the cycle break? How do we break the cycle?
Right. And it starts with the kids. In some kids I've seen, there's no in between. They either stay clear or they go all in like their parents.
Right.
And you're right. Something needs to change. And to go back to, what your daughter had said, that relapse is part of recovery, and I heard you and Lisa talking about it. I cringe when I hear that. I cringe.
Oh, I do too.
Because if as an addict, I can say this with 100%. I have the tools today. So if I have that bad day, and I do, that thought will pop in my head sometimes, hey, go get high. Okay, where did that come from? You know what I mean? But I don't. I pray to God, and then I reach out and I talk about it. It's just how bad do you want it? And there are days where they're harder than others. But for me, it'll mean death if I go use. And for Tade, that's not going to happen. But I know September 12th I'm going to be out of town. But on the next one, I would like to come down and walk
Okay.
with you guys.
Okay.
And because I support everything you do, and especially down that way. Yes, they have some strong recovery down there because I have a lot of good friends between Washington and Union and Sullivan and Bourbon, and but there needs to be more for the parents, more awareness.
Right.
And
Yes.
at some point, I've been talking about this for years. I want to do something with the kids to show them that you don't have to put drugs or alcohol in your system to have a good time. So maybe at some point you and I can collaborate on that, and maybe do something on that route.
Absolutely. We're trying to gear more of what we do towards the kids and involve the kids more, because it starts with them. And the more we can get them to understand and truly know, the less likely they are to turn to drugs and use.
I lost her.
And peer pressure is a big thing. So if we give them the tools at an early age to fight back that peer pressure, then maybe these numbers will start dropping.
Right, and I think so. Before you came on, I was telling Lisa that they just came out with the new stats that the overdose rate since March went up 30%.
Right.
And the suicide rate, I'd hate to see the numbers on that. But if we can start hitting them young and change that, along with continue what we're doing with people in recovery now, we can't save everybody, but we can save as many as we can.
Right. And everything that I've done and the organization has done, I've always told myself, if I can help one person along the way, then I'm successful. Because all it takes is one person to change their mind, their attitude, and it will grow. They will talk to someone, and that one person, they can touch one person, and so forth. It's kind of like a pay it forward thing. So one person, each event, if we can help change their mind, open their eyes, then it's a success.
Absolutely. I'm going to give this back to Lisa, but I am so honored that you came on to share about what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I'm definitely going to reach out to you later. Because
Fantastic.
I'm going to push what you're doing up here on my page and people, and then see if we can get some people up here to come down to support you as well.
Fantastic. That'd be great.
All right. Well, you take care.
You too.
So, Krista, I'm back.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I have a grandmother who had sent a message to me. Her daughter and the daughter's husband are both users, and they have 3 kids now, and the kids are suffering. And she wanted to see if you had any advice for her as a grandmother. She's turned her daughter in multiple times to DFS, and nothing's ever been done.
Okay, I don't give advice because I'm not qualified to give advice, but I can only tell her what I would do or what I would attempt to do, and if she can, go talk to a lawyer. Because if she can hire a lawyer and seek legal guardianship of those kids, that is the best avenue. Right now with COVID, DFS isn't really going to be doing too much anyway. And it takes several hotline calls to really make something happen. But if she can get an attorney, tell the attorney what's going on, and, seek legal guardianship or temporary guardianship, to start off with. And if she can prove to the judge that both parents are using, then chances are she will get it. Be a 24/7 checkup, and say, hey, I need to talk to the kids, pop in and check on them, as often as she can. And it's terrible to say, but be in their face, and if you think there's something wrong, if your gut is telling you something wrong, there's something wrong. So do everything you can just to fight for those kids and protect those kids.
Yeah, she lives in Illinois, but her daughter lives here in Missouri. So popping in is kind of hard. But she was supposed to have the kids for the summer, and her daughter got mad and went and picked them up and took them. So she's...
If I was her, I'd go talk to a lawyer.
That was my suggestion, too.
That's what I would do.
That was my suggestion. So for parents out there that are listening, and they have a kid that's on drugs, or they think their kids are on drugs, what kind of suggestions, advice, recommendations would you give to those parents?
First of all, don't ever let society make you feel that you have failed as a parent, because you have not. Second, don't let society's stigma and the bashing get you down. You have to stay up and you have to stay positive, and you fight against that stigma, because it doesn't matter who they're talking about. You go into a gas station and you hear, you will never hear me say these terms in public. I will say them now to make my point. Meth head, junkie, tweaker, those words, those are no-nos. You don't use those words, and if I hear people use those words, I will defend whoever they're talking about, and I don't even care if I know them or not, because they are a person, and they deserve to be treated as such. It doesn't matter what they've done. They didn't choose their disease. They are sick, and that's another debate, but addiction is a disease because it changes the chemistry of the brain. So you stand up to society as hard as it is. Stand up to them and say, you know what, that's someone, and that person you're specifically talking to is my someone, and I love that someone. And just be a voice, because the more you talk about it, the more you're gonna attach more people to you going through the same thing who feel that they have no outlet, that they don't have a voice, and they're alone, because they're not alone. There's a lot of us parents out there.
Does she have just one kid?
So, do you have just one kid?
I have 3.
You have 3?
I got a question for her. I have a question for you.
Okay.
So you have 3 kids. Are they all in addiction?
No. Nope. Just my daughter. She's my oldest. She's going to be 29. My middle son is 22, and my youngest is 17. And my boys, they watched what happened to their sister, and they want nothing to do with drugs. And they had to endure a lot when when my daughter was actively using, because I felt I did more harm to them by not being a good mom to them during the time, but I felt all my attention needed to be put on my daughter. So I'm doing a lot of trying to make up for that now, and you can't make up for past time. But the 2 boys, they're not into drugs. They want no part of drugs, and I hope they maintain that attitude. But you never know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Right. And I didn't want to ask you that, but when you mentioned, if you hear somebody that mentioned meth head, junkie, whatever, you defend them, and God bless you for that, because it is a disease. Now, my sister, she can pick up a drink and put it down. She never had a drinking problem. She never had a drugging problem. You put a drink in front of me, and it's on. You know what I mean? So we went 2 separate ways. So that just goes back to when people say, yeah, it's a choice and yada, yada, yada. It was a choice when I picked up the drug. But once I
Right.
did that, my brain just went crazy. To whereas my sister,
Right. It is,
you know what I mean? My sister went the opposite way.
yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so it's one of those where the stigma and the judgment really needs to stop. You know, as far as people need to
Yes, it
stop
does.
saying, well, that junkie deserves to die, or that tweaker and the jokes. We're all good people. We're just sick, and it's up to
Mhm.
us to work on it every day. You know,
Right.
it. I know for me, I got high every day, so I got to work on my recovery every day. And
Exactly right.
the first time I don't, I'm gonna have a needle in my arm, and you're gonna see me in the obituary. And today, it's not gonna happen. I'll wake up tomorrow and face that tomorrow, but I just worry about today.
Right. And that's all anybody in recovery can do. They wake up every morning and they say, I'm gonna fight it today and I'm gonna survive today. And then tomorrow you're gonna do the same thing over and over and over again. I've never done hard drugs. I mean, I've dabbled whenever I was a teenager, and I don't really like to drink. So to me, any substance that alters the way I think, I have to have control. I'm a control freak. And anything that makes me lose control, I don't like that feeling,
Right.
you know. And I'm not. I have drank. I've lit it up a few nights, you know, back in the day. But now I look at it now and I'm like, why? You know, why do I need to do that? But I was one who could pick it up and I could set it down.
Well,
You know, not everybody can do that.
right, right, and thank God that you were one of them that could, and now you stay away, because
Yeah. Yeah.
it just breaks my heart when I hear every day I get online and I see somebody died from an overdose, every day,
Yes.
whether it
Yes.
be up in the St. Louis, St. Charles area, even down in your way, every day.
Oh yes.
And then throughout the country, it's just sad, and to see what the parents have to go through, I just can't fathom. Can't fathom.
Right. And you know, when your child overdoses, I mean, I was lucky because I found my daughter in time. But that image of her laying there will never go away. I see it in my head every day. It's a fear. And whenever I hear of another overdose, her image laying in the floor is what I see. And I'm like, that's somebody else's, you know, son or daughter. Another mom just went through what I went through, and thank God I was lucky and I found my kid. But too many of them out there who's not that lucky, and it breaks my heart, and I just want to go around and hug them all and tell them all they're not alone. And there's no words that can make up for that when you lose a child to an overdose. Nothing,
Right, right.
because that's an ache that never goes away.
Well, and praise God you were there to find your daughter. But let me ask
Yes.
you this: when you see that image in your head, I know there's other parents out there that see that and may not know how to deal with it. How do you deal with that? How do you go on?
Well, she's alive, you know, and that's what keeps me going on. And things will happen and it will get up, and you know, if a song comes on, it can, you know, there's certain shows, you know, or certain things, it's like, oh my gosh, this is what I dealt with, this is what I seen. But I have to remember instantly, she's alive though. I still have her.
Right, right. And I thank God that you do. And 3 years, warms my heart. It really does.
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome. So, all right. Well, thanks again.
You're welcome.
And Krista, before we end with you, can you give a shout out to how people can contact your company, parents, anybody that needs help?
Contact the organization, contact MAG.
Correct.
Okay, we have a Facebook page, so if you just search mid-mo addiction awareness, it will pop up on Facebook. We have a website. It's www.magwecare.com. And you can find me on Facebook and friend me on Facebook and talk to me anytime.
Okay, awesome.
I just sent her a friend request. So.
All right. Again, thanks for coming online with us.
Thank you for having me.
And hope we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, you guys take care.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
I couldn't imagine having I couldn't. My son may be in addiction. I don't know because I haven't seen him since '97. But I couldn't. It's easy as somebody and we've talked about when you first reached out to me. It's easy for me to say, okay, well you need to do this, this, and this. But I also had said I don't know what I would do if it was me in your shoes.
Correct.
I just know. I just couldn't fathom having to deal with having a kid in addiction or even losing a kid from an overdose.
I've actually had some parents contact me that talked really crappy to me and was always telling me, you should do this and you should do that to your daughter. And if my kid ever did that, I would chain them in the basement. I'd beat them. I would do this and that. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But now they're calling me because their kid is in some sort of addiction now. And they're like, I don't even know what to do. And I was like, well, what happened about beating them and tying them up in the basement?
Right.
That didn't work, did it?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure in our heads, when we think of our kids, we think we want to do the best we can for them. And we still want to do the best we can when they're in the addiction too. But when they're not, and we think about it, we think like how our kids aren't going to be that way.
Right. And then when they turn that way, the biggest thing that, and parents tell me left and right, and you've said it before, you can't enable them. But then that's the hardest thing because, especially moms, it's easy for dads because dads are, but moms are always the unconditional love no matter what. And
correct.
But the biggest thing is just not enable them. But then would I enable if I found out my son was an addict? Would I do it? Knowing what I know now and being so far in recovery that I am, and I'm still early because I haven't had 4 years yet. It's my kid. Would I chain him up, or would I, want to just beat him over the head, or would I let him just kind of ride it out? I mean, I could sit here and tell you all day I would do this, this, and this, but
Until it happens,
you don't know. So,
you really don't.
If you're a parent and you're thinking, well, I would do this and I would do no. In your head you would, but until that situation, it's like, don't tell somebody what to do if you haven't walked in the shoes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I agree with that. And I think back when my daughter was using, my biggest thing is there wasn't enough talk about it. Nobody really was talking. People were ODing at that point, but even the kids that were ODing, parents were keeping a hush-hush about it.
Because they felt shame and guilt.
And correct.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's talked about enough, but I think it's starting to get out there that people are now feeling like it's okay to talk about it. It's kind of like way back in the olden days, they never talked about sex. that was like a no-no.
And now it's all over.
Now it's everywhere. And it's sad that, because to me, sex is way different than drugs. But now drugs, I mean, for a while there, drugs was a hush-hush. I mean, it's just now getting out. Now because we're losing so many people.
I think the numbers last year for overdoses throughout the country was in the 6 figures. And this year it's gonna blow it out of the water, because they're lacing everything with fentanyl.
Correct.
Somebody just died last week. Their son was doing Xanax, bought Xanax off the street.
Mm-hmm.
Killed him from because they're dipping the Xanax in fentanyl.
Now that, actually I've known that. Back when my daughter was using.
Yeah, they've been doing that for...
She would get her Xanax off the streets, and it was fentanyl. And I remember picking her up and literally taking my phone and recording her in my vehicle, thinking she was going to die in my vehicle by the time I got her. And she does not remember nothing of it.
Between the and the Flacca, it's starting to come, and the Gator. I mean, there's so much. The Gator's been around a bit, but it's not as bad here yet, and I hope it doesn't. But if it takes off, it's going to be bad. So I don't know. All we can do is pray and just keep giving hope that you don't have to pick up. If you got the tools, you can use them. Going back out, and I'm going to say this again, and I'll say it for the people so they can hear it in the back.
Yeah.
Relapse is not part of recovery.
That's right.
If you are going to an outpatient place, if you're going to some counselor and they tell you that relapse is part of recovery, you better find another counselor and you better find another treatment outpatient place. Relapse does not have to be part of recovery. Unfortunately, it is for some, and I'm glad that the people that do relapse come back. But you don't have to. When you're in recovery, you got the tools. It's just a matter of, do you want it or not? Do you want to fight for it or not? I mean, that's it.
That's right. I agree. So, next week, we're going to talk about domestic violence.
Yes.
Some abuse, and some of that can entwine with some addiction.
Absolutely.
And we would like to hear from y'all. So if y'all have any stories or questions or anything that you would like us to address, send us a message. That's all really I gotta say. I hope the rest of y'all have a great rest of the weekend. We will be here next Thursday at 4:30.
Absolutely. And if you have a question or a comment, or if you have something that you would like us to discuss on domestic violence or anything else, and you don't want to do it on the public page and you want to keep anonymous, just shoot us a message. That's one thing I'm real big on is what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I am very quiet about when I help somebody or if somebody's got a question. But we can address that. You can just say, hey, this is such and such. I'd rather not go on the public page, but what can I do here? Do you have any resources? And I can promise you, if neither one of us have a resource or an answer for what you have, within an hour I can have an answer. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So, anyway, you guys have a rocking week. It's been a good show. And got to thank Krista for coming on.
Yes.
That's awesome.
All right. We'll see y'all next week. Hi, I'm Lisa Mash, and this is
Scott Hartman.
And we are hosting Voice of Hope every Thursday at 4:30 Central Standard Time here at Ferguson, USA Hot Talk Radio. We are addicts, and we've also dealt with domestic violence, mental health, assaults, rapes, and many other things.
Our goal is to give hope to others. If it's domestic violence, mental health, rape, molestation, sex trafficking, trauma situations, addictions, or if you're a family member or a loved one of somebody that's going through any of this, we are here to help.
And you're going to hear real voices, real stories, real hope, and encouragement.